Hit record. Here we go. Greetings and welcome, friends. This is Mari Smith coming to you live from overcast San Diego. It's Wednesday, November 20th, and here we are on the Facebook Marketing Success System module number 4. 4 of 8 plus your bonus module we got coming up in a couple weeks time. So today, hopefully by now I'm watching a lot of the comments in the Facebook group, and many of you are really getting it. I love what Pepita said, the knowledge is addictive there, but that you're really realizing there's a lot to learn, but when you hang in there and you just stay the course, it's amazing what can open up. So with that, for you and for your business is what I'm saying. To get to Power Editor, there's many places. I'm going to just do a quick review, and then we're going to switch over to Dennis, who has access to many brave volunteers' ad campaigns. So you could go, if you place an ad before, you can go to this little gear icon, you can go manage ads, and then you get to it there. Or you can just type in facebook.com/power editor, and that brings it up as a URL. You can do what I've done is I simply have it as a bookmark. I dragged it to my bookmarks. So that's facebook.com/power editor. You'll see I have my fan page, I have this group, the URL, because every one of these things has an individual URL. So I have the URL for this group, and my Inner Circle Club, and Business and Beyond Club. So those are just different bookmarks, and that's the easiest way that I find. So just a few things. I'm going to click on a fairly recent one. This is an ad campaign that I ran for this course, FMSS. And to start, as you saw what Dennis was doing, you have to click on campaigns and you have to create a campaign. If you've never created one before, you have to create one. You give it a name, budget. In fact, Dennis, I need to hear you. What am I talking about? I need to give you, I need to put you on audio because I want to, no, but I don't want to change presenter. Hold on, let's see if we can do this. Hit okay. Oh, of course now I think I've just disappeared my screen. I have to put the display back because now, sorry about this, folks. There it is. Move over there. I had my, oh, but you're not seeing my screen now at all, so I know what's happening. Dennis, can we hear you? Ooh. I don't see Dennis in the room. He must have gotten a little bit, I switched over to him and then something changed. Okay, so let me go back and change it back to myself for now. I'm not sure what happened to Dennis. Maybe he got booted off for a second. Show my screen. So he'll be back in a second. You should be seeing my screen back again. Sorry about that, folks. It's a little glitchy hiccup. And Dennis will be with us in a second. Something weird happened there. I wanted to ask him, but we'll clarify this. For me, I like to set create campaign a lifetime. I think Dennis does it because we saw the other day a $5 a day budget. For me personally, if I'm doing a specific, oh, there you are, Dennis. Is that you?
Hey,
Hey,
sorry about that. A little
that's
trouble with the
okay.
audio.
Oh, oh, there you are. You're up at the top. I was looking down at the bottom for you. Do you tend to do a daily budget or a lifetime budget?
Depends on what the goal is. If you've got a campaign where there's an event, sometimes you want a lifetime budget because you can spend out a bit quicker. But in 90% of the cases, you're going to choose a daily budget because social is a relationship. It's an ongoing thing. It's not just for a week or something. And you can
Okay.
start and end dates, and you stack these campaigns upon one another. But for the most part, you're going to be using daily budgets. If you're an affiliate and
Mm,
have something that's profitable and it's working really well, then you could set a lifetime budget and have it spend out quickly as long as you know the campaign's already profitable.
yeah, yeah. Okay, well that totally makes sense. I get it. And as you're saying, for ongoing promotion, then you just set yourself daily budget. For the ones that I've done in the past, and hang on, I've ended up creating too many. If you do this like this, if you've accidentally created an untitled campaign, just hit the delete key. So in hitting the delete key there, I'm going to hit the delete key here on my keyboard and get rid of those guys. Oh, I must have hit the backspace. Hit backspace. There it goes. Let me go into one FMSS and go to the ads. So because I will do a campaign, Dennis. Typically, when I'm advertising a course, I'm doing a launch or something, then I might do lifetime over like 3 or 4 or 5 days. So and so that's you set the campaign and then you click into the campaign from the left hand side and then you click on create ad. And remember, I just wanted to show folks this today, Dennis, because I have one ad account. I don't do agency stuff. I don't have a bazillion. And I think sometimes folks get a little overwhelmed when they see a bazillion choices, which obviously you're an admin for a lot of pages and you're admin for a lot of advertising accounts. So very important to pick the right page. So I am admin on a few pages, different clients there, but mostly, obviously, I'm going to click on my own page. I learned some of this stuff from you, Dennis, in terms of when we were running this campaign, the way that I'm naming them and like talking to like FOFs, friends of fans or fans only, and um, doing the website conversion. I think you showed folks that last week with the conversion pixel was pretty exciting.
Hmm.
Now, and I think, have we talked about dark posts yet? Because that's what these are. I don't think we
I
have,
don't
but
think so.
yeah.
Maybe you could show us.
Huh?
Yeah, maybe you could show us. I don't
Okay.
think we talked about it last time.
Yeah. Well, you see folks up here in the ads that I ran. That's one, two, three, four dark posts. These ones are YouTube video wall posts, and the dark posts actually performed really well. Um, And all they are is you're creating a post as if it was on your wall, your Facebook wall, but you can get really, really targeted about placement and the bids and the exact audience, most importantly, the audience. So all you do is you've set up your campaign. I'm now clicked on here on this campaign, and then I'll go and create an ad. In this case, this is the ad I'm working on. Same idea. Create new unpublished post. No, actually, I don't want to do that. Let's create a new one. Create ad. We've got a new one. Choose. I'm going to do website conversions, and I'm going to choose my own page. All right. So it's automatically grabbing my last post. But let's say I want to do, this is called a dark post or a ghost post, or Facebook calls it unpublished. Unpublished doesn't mean that it's not published anywhere. It's published in the news feed. And you have the 4 standard options: link, photo, video. I can't do my math, that's 5. Video, status, and offer. Okay, and as you click on those, they give you different options. Dennis, I don't touch anything in the targeting here because that's almost the same as a wall post targeting, isn't it? I
Right.
just create the post and ignore that, and then just let's just do something fun here. Like this is a test post. Hee hee. Great post. That would be funny if I did sponsor that. Okay, so that then is created and would then, depending on the parameters and everything that we were talking about with Dennis, of targeting, would go out in the newsfeed of who I target it to. And I'm probably going to do newsfeed. Let's imagine I did newsfeed mobile only, and then I go into my audience. And this is just as a review, and I'm kind of just doing it in my own language here. And I would target, you know, people connected to my page, and then you're always going to look at the number, as you were saying, Dennis. So I found it really fascinating. One distinction I wanted to clarify, because you were saying not to target any more than about 10,000, right?
Well, for a smaller business, the larger your presence is, the larger your business is, the more you can spend, but it has to be relative to your budget.
I see what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I typically will do anything up to about 100,000, not
Well,
dollars.
Mari's a unique case. Mari is a well-known personality, and her content is so good that there isn't really a lot of risk in hitting 100,000 people. Your follower base, or the people who are fans of you and know about you, is so large in the social space
Mm,
that if you put content out there, the likelihood that someone who likes you is going to comment is high, and therefore participation. But I would say for people who are not Mari and don't have that level of reach, you want to test a bit more. You want to test with smaller audiences. And then once you find things that work, then you can start to extend into everyone that likes that particular theme or topic that you want to be known as the best in. But I wouldn't start doing that right away because there's a risk that your click-through rate would be low and that you could potentially spend through your budget.
Yeah, yeah, really good. So I'm just going to take a couple questions here because they're in context. Margie saying for a dark post ad, what is a good rule of thumb for how much text to include in the post? It's absolutely the same as a wall post, really. You know, I do tend to go on and on and on. This was a dark post, but this would be pretty standard for me for a wall post. In a way, I've quote trained my audience to expect more wordy, in-depth posts, almost like little mini blog posts. This one isn't. This is a blatant ad. But, you know, I've done it with a little heart and hi friends of, you know, throwing a little hee hee here and there. But to your point, Margie, I would probably go with a little bit less text. And I saw another relevant question there that was good. Wendy was saying, when is it to your benefit to use a dark post versus a more thought out ad with a graphic? What's the main difference? Well, the main difference is that you could actually do some split tests. So as you see with these posts up here, they're actually the same post. Oh, the link one. Oh no, actually I did a few different ones. I did the video one, but I'm doing some testing. So for example, why don't I go ahead and I'll just show some of the results of that. I should have, see there, I'd go clicking on things. I went up to the campaign dashboard and I've clicked on the recently completed campaign. So you can come in here and see. So I actually made 22 sales at a cost of $14 each, which is not bad. Spent $316. I think my lifetime budget on that, I mean, oh no, I upped it. I boosted up to 500. But you can see the ones that performed way, way better than others. Frequency cost results. Yeah, this one, even though this one, what do you, I saw the other day you said you sorted by reach. Yeah. So even though the
Yeah,
YouTube,
reach or spend. I prefer sorting by reach instead of spend because it gives me a quicker idea of traffic. If you're running a lot of right-hand side, then your reach is going to be higher because the cost to hit people is a lot less. It's a much lower CPM. But
yeah,
generally, standard by reach, you can quickly see what's working, and that way, the stuff that's spending the most, you spend the most attention on. Especially if you have a lot of
yeah.
ads, you don't have time to look at every single ad.
Now, a question for you then, since we're talking about reach, and this morning I posted about reach on my page. So sorting by reach in this particular campaign, this was a wall post. This was not a dark post. So the reach, does that have any impact on it? We've got an organic reach. This is paid reach, right? But do you think that
This
has an
is
impact?
this is actually a very interesting case that everyone should look at carefully because it's highlighting the difference between being in the newsfeed versus being on the right-hand side. Now, in general, you know that the newsfeed is more engaging.
Hmm.
People think that that is legitimate organic content. The click-through rate is obviously much lower on the right-hand side. So you can see here the click-through rate is 0.092 versus 2%. Huge difference, right? That's a
Right.
200 times order of magnitude. But look at this. Even though it is cheaper to reach people, and actually, if you could click on that first ad, Mari, just to expand it so they can see the targeting
Sure,
on it.
sure.
She's paying a CPM of 17 cents. She's bidding optimized CPM, so it's costing very little. So 17 cents for every 1,000 messages that she's showing. And if you look at the cost per conversion, it's $12 against this 86,000 people in the custom audience. That's pretty good. But if you look at the second one, the cost per conversion is $11. So it's actually a little bit cheaper, and I would even say that statistically that is a noise. That's not a real difference. They're basically about the same. But that second one, if you open that up a little bit more, the
Hmm.
dark post,
Yeah.
you can see we got more conversions, but the frequency there was 1.2. Can you guys see that? And the
Hmm.
frequency hitting the right-hand side was at 13.5. So what it says is, in this case, it's about the same. So whether Mari was running on the right-hand side or whether it was in the newsfeed, it converted about the same. It drove about the same conversion rate, click-to-conversion rate. And part of it could be that the images play differently. The
I
one where
think
she's
so too. This
outside.
is actually a video. This is a video.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Well, maybe, which one's bigger, a small giant or a large dwarf? A good video on the right-hand side versus an interesting picture in the newsfeed. So I
Right.
think that's what's going on here. You
Yeah.
have a slightly different audience size,
Mm-hmm.
But in general, this is a good contrast between whether you run something in the newsfeed versus the right-hand side. And you should
Mm,
test it.
yeah.
There's no clear winner necessarily. Sometimes if you're sending to something that's less social, the right-hand side ad's going to perform better, because if you interact in the newsfeed, especially because if you're an attorney or you're selling something that you don't, it's sort of embarrassing that you want to tell people about, maybe the right-hand side will work better, but you should test.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful. And just to clarify, I think we had a question on this on another webinar, but someone was saying, "Oh, zero conversion. Does that mean you don't pay?" Well, I do pay. You do. Here's the cost over here, but I can see that you can see that those ads didn't perform in terms of getting me the result. That whole objective base. The objective here was to drive people to a sales page and have them sign up for a course. This course, as it happens. And this one performed the best with the 15 sales, and that was 7 sales. And how we did that, back to the Power Editor, is we created that little conversion tracker over here. By the way, you can grab these lines and move them. So we can move this out. Oh, it doesn't want to play nice now. Probably because I've messed around with my resolution today. Oh, maybe it's just slow. You can move those, and you can move this one here when you're in your ads thing. Actually, you don't need to do it here, but so up here, create conversion pixel. I think we might have done this. If not, we can go over this again at some point. But all I did was I think I did registrations, gave it a name, sale, I don't know, FMSS sales page, or actually we didn't call it sales page, TP in my company, SP is sales page and TP is thank you page. Just go like that. Create pixel, and it gives you that code. You did cover this, I remember on last session, and you drop that code, or you have your webmaster do it. In this instance, where I put that code was on the thank you page, not the sales page, but the thank you page of the course. So, and then with the audiences, as you saw, well, there, decides to jump out now. Hey, stop messing me around here. uh, with the custom audience you saw here, I was loading up every time I ran an ad. I kept loading up the database of people who had signed up for the course, so that I was not placing the ads in front of people that already signed up for the course. So that's what that means, and how we can just show them right quick how to do that. Some people might, we can go over this one again. Under the audience, when you're placing the ad, you go to advanced, and there it is there. It's an excluded audience. Okay, remember we can target the custom audience. This is coming up more in depth in another module. So again, not trying to give you all at once here. Just thought it might help to see a different dashboard and see things in a different way. Okay, so I'm just looking at a few questions. So I'm going to get to some of your questions toward the end. And let's switch gears now, and we have an amazing number of campaigns to to have a look at. Now, actually, I think I can just stop showing my screen. Give keyboard and mouse. Yeah. Oh no, I didn't mean to do that. I don't want to give you my keyboard and mouse. I'm going to stop showing my screen, which means I think you can show your screen, Dennis.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me come over here and share mine.
Oh, there you go. I think I needed to do one more click. There, I think it's going.
Okay.
Is it playing nice?
All right. Can everyone see my screen here? We're going to go through a few of these ad
There it
accounts.
goes. Uh-huh.
I saw that a few of you kind, brave folks were granting me access, so I appreciate this. Let's start first with, I think this is Amanda's campaign, and she's promoting a 2-for-1 green fee. And last time we looked, she was running this ad on the right-hand side. Or no, this was a newsfeed ad. You can usually tell if it's newsfeed versus right-hand side by the frequency. If you run in the newsfeed, Facebook will intentionally limit you. They're not going to show a frequency of 7 or 10 or whatever unless you just force the budget really high. So she was targeting everyone in these zip codes who like golf. And then here's her message: buy one, get one free. You can use free in all caps. If you try to do that with Google, they'll bang you. But with Facebook, you can actually get away with a lot more stuff. You just can't say things like Facebook in there, or certain kinds of diet medications or pill things, or certain name brands you can't say, but you can actually get away with a lot more here. And when it shows in the news feed, it has social context. That's one of the biggest advantages of right-hand side versus news feed, where it says, hey, 600 people like it, and if friends like it, if she were to use friends of fan targeting here, which would show up, but she's not, then it would be even more compelling, because then we have the social proof and we have the right people. They like golf. They live in zip codes that are neighboring. You could certainly say the city plus a radius. There's many ways to target where you want geographically. You may want to consider, if you go outside the United States, the zip level data or postal codes is not as accurate as in the United States. So usually city targeting, if you're going outside the US, you might even try, I know you can do 25 miles, 50 miles. If it's in a rural area, just make sure that if you go to 50 miles, it doesn't branch over into the next major city. So if you're doing something in New York City, or let's say you're doing Staten Island or Long Island, if you extend that radius out to 25 miles, you've covered Manhattan too. And all of a sudden, you're overlapping too big of an audience. Your audience goes too big, competition's too high. So that's why it's important to look at this count as a way to see, am I looking at the right group? Is this too big of an audience? Or maybe, especially in social, if you're mirroring some of the words that you were targeting, the terms you're targeting in AdWords, maybe those words are also the names of movies or songs that you might not be aware of. And all of a sudden, the count goes really big. So just be careful. This is a way of saying, are we targeting the right people or not? Am I accidentally targeting the name of some movie? Right? It happens all the time. You would not believe how many movies are named after silly things like this. So this looks pretty good, because she's targeting the newsfeed. She's got a 3% click-through rate. Because the click-through rate is good, the cost per like, or the cost per whatever it is that she's looking for, is going to be low. So in this case, 37 cents, frequency of 1.3. The ad reach of 492 means that 492 unique people saw this ad. Now, if it was part of a campaign, you'd have campaign reach, and they saw it an average of 1.3 times. So the number of times she showed this ad was 492 times 1.3, and that gives us about 600 impressions. Let's see, yeah, something like a little bit less than that. Or no, sorry, a little bit more than that. And therefore, she spent $4.75. The sponsored story that went along with this is, if somebody is a fan and you're showing Mari Smith likes this, this is a regular page-like ad that doesn't have the same social context, but the sponsored story one usually performs a little bit better. And she's got similar targeting. And if you're running a page-like story, then Facebook automatically chooses this kind of targeting. It automatically has social context. So that narrowed this 24,000 down to 3,800, which isn't really too bad. That's about 1/6 of the size. And if this were to run a little bit longer, we would see more data. She's only spent $1, so it's not enough to really tell. But over time, the click-through rate is going to be bigger. They're going to recognize the logo, and more importantly, they're going to recognize the picture of their friend. So if you've got a good fan base that you've been building and people are engaging, and you run sponsored stories on top of it, this is where ad combos come in, right? When people become a fan, when they like, when they check in, you run another set of ads that amplifies the fact that that occurred. When people are scanning through the newsfeed, here, let me open a new thing here. Just think about what happens from a user standpoint. So this is my newsfeed. Facebook intentionally has a white strip here because it shows the profile pic of whoever it is that you're looking at, or whatever the brand is. So if I see one, oh, you know, let's say I like Amanda, I recognize her, then maybe I want to see the content here, right? So this is intentionally blank because it mirrors how people are scrolling, and this is true with mobile and desktop. This is true in the new newsfeed that's coming out, right? So this is why sponsored stories are so important, is because your fans are doing the work, and this is what we called before the voice of the customer versus your own voice. So this is a great way to build the initial audience campaign. Remember we talked about audience engagement and conversion? So the first campaign is audience, making sure that you build up that base just like you build up that email list. You're building up reach. There's multiple things that are occurring here. And then you drive them into engagement, which is where sponsored stories related to engagement and collecting emails and getting them to watch videos and other kinds of things take into effect. Okay. Now let's take a look at Andy's campaign. She built this morning. I believe this was, what, maybe 12 hours ago, not very long. And there is a 2-day sale at this fishing and tackle place in Australia, and we've got a couple of these posts. Now, if we go to the page itself, let's see here. Which one are we looking at? Tackle World Cranbourne, okay. This one. We've got a number of these posts that are talking about, here, the 2-day sale. It's okay, by the way, to change out the cover profile, just like you might wear a different dress every day of the week. But you want to be careful about too much of this kind of text, because then it looks noisy, and it looks self-promotional, but this is probably okay to do because it's got a lot of these pictures here. And here it is. We're talking about fishing porn. So think about what the porn is for your area, right? Lots of pictures of people who are fishing, the flies that they're using, that they're successful. Look at how many fishing rods this guy has. Paul, he's the owner, right? And the, what are these called? Sink baits or something like this. I'm not a fisherman, so I don't know. But you can see that there are these pieces of content that are promoting the sale. You don't want to over-promote the sale. That's where you're going to want to use dark posts, right? Remember what Mari was talking about? A dark post is just a regular post, except it's only seen by the people that you target the ads to initially. So which of these ones are the most engaging? Well, look, this one looks pretty good. This guy looks like, and usually the ones that include people are the ones that get the highest CTR, especially where there's emotion. So look, this guy, here's a pic of the one that we got. He's celebrating, and so we got a lot of people liking and commenting. But if we look at something here, 2-day gala sale, 20% off stores, you can almost hear the announcer, right? All caps, exclamation points. 10 people like it, 2 comments, right? So you can't necessarily use click-through rate and engagement rate as what is the best post, because the ones that are in the mid-funnel and especially conversion at the bottom of the funnel are by definition going to be lower engagement. But the way you can get around that is if you have a really interesting photo, then in the text you can use that to sell. Just be careful not to oversell. And when you start to amplify it, you'll start to get more. You see there's more comments proportionate to the number of people that are liking it. And here, right, 4,000 people see it. I think that we don't have quite enough data. Facebook's a little slow with some of the data. You know, the insights data is typically 2 or 3 days behind. The post, and that's the page insights. The post insights is, I think now they're on averaging about 20 minutes behind. There have been some problems in the last month where the conversion data has been a few hours behind, which throws off companies that are doing a lot of e-commerce preparing for the holidays. So just, if we have anyone who is that big and is spending $1 million a month on Facebook ads, then we can talk about it separately. But I don't think anyone here has that issue. You can see the green bar versus the blue bar. This means that we are paying to show up into the newsfeed. Had Andy not created an ad, which we're going to go into in a second, had not created an ad to force this into the newsfeed, she would have gotten only 48 people to see it. But instead, she had 4,100, so an extra 100-fold. And as a result, there are more people who are likely going to click on the link or to find out more about this or expand this. So let's go look at the ad campaign. We actually took these 2 posts and amplified it against a different combination of audiences. You guys with me so far? Can I get an amen?
Amen! Or a woman.
A woman, all right. Okay, so she's got 12 ads here. And look at how we've labeled them. Now, this happens to be called 2-day sale, but you could call it 2 underscore whatever. And of the 2 locations that they have, this is a physical store. You've got to come in to get the things that are on sale. Now, of course, we prefer being able to track the ROI, which means there's a coupon, or they mention that there's, hey, mention, Facebook 10 and get 10% off. That way we know it came from Facebook. So if they're doing other kinds of marketing like direct mail and whatever, and we don't have something specific to Facebook, or we're not sending them to a website where they can fill out a form or print a coupon or something like that, then it's difficult to tell what the ROI is that came from Facebook alone. Because, of course, when you hold the sale, you're going to have more people that are going to come in. But we want to be able to tell what came from Facebook. And it's no different than what you want to do saying, hey, if they came in through my Google campaign or my direct mail campaign or whatever, I would want to know incrementally how each of these guys are driving incremental revenue. You just have to do that as a smart marketer. So the best we could do here is to say, let's just choose one of the stores. They got 2 stores. That's not a great split test. Ideally, they've got 20 stores, so we can randomly choose 10 to hit on Facebook and 10 that we don't, so we can measure what the difference is, provided all the marketing is the same, right? The only randomization is against which store we choose. But we just chose one of the 2 stores, and we're going to see what the difference is between foot traffic into the store, the number of people that are saying, hey, I heard about your thing on Facebook, right? Because you're going to ask, hey, how'd you hear about it? Oh, well, I saw your thing on Facebook, right? So let's look at the structure of some of these asks and look carefully at how we are multiplying out these ad combinations, because it's mostly by interest. And you want to be careful when you're making your ad campaigns, because there's some people that get so excited, oh, wow, I'm a power editor, look how fast I can make all these ads. And then they create 50 ads, and then they have just a mess. Okay, watch how we did this. So this, we're going with Paul holding the fishing reels. We're targeting the right-hand side, and we said, I just put it in the name. I put 14K just to kind of remember there's 14,000 people here. This one, we're targeting a different post, but still promoting the sale. And we're seeing what's the difference between being on the right-hand side versus being, that's right-hand side, versus being in the news feed. What's the difference of having a custom audience versus not being in a custom audience? So there's these different combinations, right? With and without custom audience, desktop versus newsfeed, and then are they a fan of the page or not a fan of the page? Because you could be in the custom audience but not be a fan. So this one, for example, is targeting really, really narrowly because it says less than 1,000. Now that they say less than 1,000, you don't know whether that means it's 10 people or maybe it could be 999 people. It really is a little frustrating. It used to be they told us the number. Well, it used to say 20 or less, but if it was bigger, 72 people, whatever it was. But look at how narrow this is. They're in the custom audience, which I think is almost 10,000 people, and we named it Tackle World List November. And who live in Cranbourne, remember this is a store, so we want people who are within driving distance of the store, who also like this fishing show. I guess this was a reality TV fishing show, something like that. And they are fans, and we're going to show it in the newsfeed. So when you you slice this thing down so far that it's a tiny audience. But we know that this is the best audience because, geez, if they're a fan and they're in our email list and they're close to the store and they also like the related show, these people have raised their hands up, down, and sideways. Now back to onion targeting. Remember we talked about having different combinations of targets that are really, really small and start to get bigger, bigger, kind of like the stone that you drop in the pond and then the waves go outward, right? This is what onion targeting is. You have one that's your really, really high quality base, and then you start to relax some of the filters. You start to say, well, how about just those people who they like iFish Tackle World, this show, and they're fans, but maybe they're not in the custom audience. Or maybe here, they're fans, or let's see if I can find one where they're just fans of the page, and they're close to the store, right? So we're using all of these in combination to see which of these combos is going to work, because the more restrictions we lift off of this, the larger the audience is going to be. And it looks like the biggest audience was this one. They like this fishing show. They don't necessarily like the store, but they like the particular show, and the show is pretty big. I don't remember how many people there are, but there are a lot. And there's some allegiance, some connection between this iFish TV show and the particular store. So they are close enough to the store, and they like this TV show, and we're showing it on the right-hand side. Now, the right-hand side gives us more reach, but of course, lower engagement, lower click-through rate, maybe or maybe not a better CPA, because the click-through rate and the average CPM that you pay will vary against one another. As we saw in Mari's example, they actually balanced out. So maybe it's 10 times cheaper to hit them on the right-hand side, but you get a tenth as many clicks. You guys follow me? So when we sorted here by reach among all these different combinations, from the broadest targets that have the fewest restrictions all the way to the one at the bottom where we have and all these different combinations. That way we have the best of both worlds, because if something is converting and doing well, then you're going to gradually increase that audience, and the onion targeting ideas, you're going to continue to make more variations based on what's already working. So At the overall campaign level, we've spent $100. The frequency at the campaign level is 19.4. I wouldn't necessarily freak out about this 19 being high. A, it's sales oriented, and B, most of it is on the right-hand side. I would be concerned if this was mostly newsfeed and my frequency got above 2. But this in itself is not too bad. We had an overall reach of 6,000 people. This doesn't mean that there were only 6,000 impressions. It means that there was overlapping circles between the different people we were able to reach. So this main ad, this first ad for Taco World on the right-hand side, had a unique reach of 4,627 people. So that means of the 6,000 people we reached in this campaign, 4,600 of them saw this ad, but they may have also seen some of these other ads. So if we add this up, so if we add up the reach of each of these ads, 4,600 plus 3,700 plus 1,000 plus all the rest of these, we're going to end up with a number that's bigger than 6,027 because it means that people were exposed to multiple ads. So if you've got lots of pieces of content, you may want to do some multiplication so that they're not just seeing the same ad over and over and over again. This is why the engagement campaign is so important, because you're leaving that ad that you're creating an ad that's promoting the most recent post. So it's constantly getting refreshed. That's why posting every day is so important, provided you have something that's interesting, emotionally engaging, this sort of thing. So this looks pretty good. 93 clicks, spent $43. So that means a cost per click of about 50 cents, right? Because if you go 93 clicks times 50 cents, it's $42. Or you spend divided by clicks is cost per click. And in addition to the clicks, which is where people came to the, I think we had some kind of page. What did we have? It was a brochure, a flyer. I think that's what I don't remember. We got 446 engagements on top of that, which works out to 10 cents per engagement, right? So we got these clicks. We got these post engagements, which is mostly people clicking on the photo. You can see here the engagements are broken out, photo views. That's not uncommon. You can choose in the action spec. When you're doing the bidding, we'll talk about that a bit later, you can choose which of these things you would like Facebook to optimize for. I happen to really like sharing, but in this case, I know people are going to want to click on the photo. This is the founder. They're going to want to click on his face, find out what he's up to, and they're going to find out more about the sale that way. So let's look at some of these next ads. This one here has the fishing lures, or I guess they're called sinkers. And it's got the same size audience here, 14,000. So the only difference between these two is that we're using a different image. So we're split testing the image, right? And here we had a little bit less reach, frequency is not as much, and we had a much lower click-through rate, 0.06. A lot of people, when they say, oh, I'm bidding the cost per click, so I don't really care about click-through rate, or I don't care about impressions because I'm only paying when there's a click. That is a bad idea. Click-through rate absolutely matters because it governs what you pay at some point. It governs efficiency, and if it's not efficient for Facebook, they're going to find a way to penalize you. Let's look at this. So because our click-through rate is not as good, our cost per click is going to end up being a little bit higher. So we drove 15 clicks at a cost of $11. That's about 65 cents, something like that. So we're paying maybe 30% more, right? So all those being equal, and it's the right audience, the same audience, so we know the quality audience is going to be about the same. It's telling us that it looks like this photo is not as engaging as this one. So now that we see that this one isn't working as well, and this is one that we call sinkers, then we're going to turn off everything that's related to sinkers. So remember we were talking about metrics analysis action? This means you're just creating a few ads at a time because you're quickly going to stop the things that aren't working. So this sinkers one, I'm turning off. Sinkers, turning off. When you're making ads, don't go on a binge and just create 50 ads all at once and look at it the next month. Spend 5 minutes making a few ads and then come back to it a little bit later and make a few more versions and just iterate, right? It's a lot more fun, it's a lot easier, and thus you enable cycles where you can start to learn. So now I've turned off these particular sinker ads. I know this is a winner. I may decide to play winner stay on, which is I'll take another post. Maybe it's not this guy holding the fishing rods, maybe it's some other kind of thing. And so just by pausing a few, creating some more combinations, I'm being smart about my ad multiplication. What else can I learn here? Well, I've got a fair number of people here in Taco World that likes this. I may go ahead and create another variation. So create a similar ad. You can do the same thing in Power Editor when you clone an ad. right? To say, I want more that's like this. I'm going to try other larger audience combinations. I'm going to multiply against other photos that I have. I may even get rid of this iFish Taco Roll piece and start to go into, if I'm in the US, things like partner category targeting. Because maybe having a single filter on what they bought is actually strong enough compared to a custom audience. Now let's look at these next ones. Here we've got the custom audience, and this is the only filter we have with the exception of the geo filter. They have to be near the store, right? And there's 3,400 people that we're targeting. We're able to hit 1,000 of them. That's pretty good. That's a third of them. So on the last half day, we're not going to be able to hit all of these people because there could be 3,400 people on the list, but this requires them to, A, have logged into Facebook, and B, us showing them a message, which means competing against all the other people that are trying to show that particular audience or that particular person a message. We hit them on the right-hand side. Frequency is 7.5, which is okay. It's a sale, and people are in the sales mood, whether or not they're cynical about it, where all the retailers are gearing up all their fourth quarter ads. By the way, you should expect to see that your cost of advertising through about Christmas and into early January will be about 30 or 40% higher. Just expect that to be true. It's been true every year. You're going to pay more because even if other people are running untargeted ads, their ads are going to overlap the audiences that you're going after. Have you noticed that? Every year it gets more and more expensive. Isn't that neat, Mari? It used to be 10 cents or 4 or 5 cents per thousand. And now we're spending, still not a lot, like 58 cents, 49 cents. But the cost of the traffic from an impression standpoint, the CPM is really how Facebook measures how they're making money.
Did you just say it's going up over the holiday? We'll notice a boost in that over the holidays?
Yeah, and it always gets more expensive
Yeah.
over the holidays. It
Yeah,
just
yeah,
does.
yeah.
Cause people who don't have their, they've got extra budget. What happens is that these big retailers and all these big companies come in and dump the rest of their budget, so they just jack up the prices for everybody else. And we're guilty of that too, because we get incremental budget during fourth quarter too. We'll get a phone call second week in December saying, "Hey, we've got an extra $100,000. Can you spend it?" Like, of course we can. Why the money?
Right. It's the whole corporate world, isn't it? It's like they won't get their same budget again in the following year if they don't use it all up. So yeah, this is a great time for
Yeah,
that. But it's also with the ads, it's supply and demand. So this is a huge spending time for the whole world, really, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. So it makes
it's a
sense that the price goes up.
cycle.
Hmm?
Yeah, a lot of the retailers will say, during from Black Friday to Christmas is when we do 20% of our sales or something like that. Well, part of
Yeah.
it's because that's when people expect, that's when the deals are, and people are waiting until the deals happen. So if you are a retailer, if you're selling something, if you have a special, you might unfortunately have to wait until that cycle because people are intentionally not spending money because they know that there's going to be some kind of special after Thanksgiving, for example, if in the United States. But
Right.
look at this here. This is something that is going to be true for everyone's ads. I want you to see the mechanics of how all of the cost per click, CTR, impressions. I want to show you how it actually fits together in the real world. And for those of us who I saw in the last session, they were saying, "Oh, this is so much. There's, my mind is blown. There's too many things." Instead of focusing on all the particular numbers and the particular tactics, like click here, click here, click here, step back for a moment and think with me. Facebook's trying to make as much money as they can based on this inventory. And the way they measure that is not based on your cost per click or your conversion, which is what you care about. You care about your conversion. They care about making money on the traffic. And in between, it's engagement. Now, they're looking at how much money they're making on the inventory, which is every 1,000 impressions. This is what a CPM is. So here off of Andy's campaigns, they're making 58 cents, Australian 58 cents, which is, 45 cents, something like that, US, off of every 1,000 times they're showing her message, in this case on the right-hand side. So if she were to bid CPC and her click-through rate was half as good as it was, in this case it's 0.126, if her click-through rate was half as much on the same CPM, then they'd make money half as often, right? If you got clicks half as often, then you're going to make half as much money if you're Facebook, right? Facebook has an incentive to actually be on your side to get clicks, and if they help you target better, then you're going to have better performance. More people are going to click on your stuff, and they're going to make more money, right? And advertisers will be happy, and then in the long run, they'll spend more budget. So when you bid optimize CPM, then you are telling Facebook, hey, I want you to go against my goal. Like Mari was showing you, her goal was thank you page registrations or initial webinar signups or whatever that goal is. If you let Facebook have the goal, and some of the cynical marketers will say, oh, I don't trust Facebook with my data. Well, too bad. All the data's already there. If you let Facebook do the bidding and selection for you, several things happen. Two main things happen. You see here this 14,000? Because Andy bid optimized CPM, which I believe now is a default, instead of CPC or CPM, then of the 14,000, she's saying, hey, Facebook, of this 14,000, can you find the people in here that you think are most likely to engage with me? Don't target everyone here. Just find the ones that you think are going to be most likely to engage with me and bid the right price that's necessary to show up in the newsfeed. And especially coming into the holiday season, sometimes the price is going to be, $1, sometimes it's 20 cents, sometimes it's, and depending on the audience, the older they are or the more educated they are, the more expensive it is to hit that target. So we want Facebook to automatically bid, because if maybe the people who are more likely to convert, they're 35 college degree, female, live urbanly, they're more expensive, and maybe if we just bid manually, we would have missed that because we bid too low. And maybe we overbid on the 25-year-old unemployed male who likes to go fishing and watches fishing shows, and maybe they're only worth 20 cents, right? So you want to let Facebook do the bidding for you unless you are a very sophisticated e-commerce retailer. Do not override their bidding except in that situation, and if you are targeting an audience that's so small that you're willing to pay anything. In that case, force bid it at a $10 CPC. So that's one. I figure maybe I'll speed up and we can have some more conversation about some of these other ones. So this is Cub Trails, what we looked at before, selling software to manage your den if you're in the Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts. And we have our campaigns, 1, 2, and 3, spending about $130, $140 a day. This campaign is, I believe, based on Pacific time, if I'm not mistaken. So we are just over halfway through the day, and so it's pacing. If we find that the campaign is successful and we're generating a good cost per lead or cost per what have you, then you may want to increase your daily budget. I saw some questions in the forum about, hey, I'm not getting enough budget, or there's a warning saying, hey, you've already spent all your money. Well, in that case, either you need to bid higher at the ad level, but I don't recommend it because I recommend optimize CPM. You need to increase the budget at the campaign level, or you need to increase the account level ad budget. So if it's working, you should basically have an unlimited budget. And when you set up a new account, you can't spend a lot of money because I think initially they give you a $5 budget, then a $10 budget. And if you max out your budget 3 days in a row, then they bump you up to the next tier. So eventually you go up to 1,000 and 2,500, and I think we have some accounts that have a spend limit of $200,000 a day. Now, of course, they're not going to spend $200,000. It's like the credit card companies, they send you a thing saying, hey, I just raised your limit to, $20,000 or whatever, right? But it doesn't mean you're going to spend it, right? But it's kind of neat to know.
That's amazing.
And if you are an agency, if you're an agency and you have a retail client or a CPG company that is used to spending a lot of money, and you set up a new ad account for them, and you have this big sale that's going to occur in a few days, you better reach out to Facebook ahead of time, because if you set this high budget, let's say you set the campaign budget here, but your account budget is still at the $5 a day for the new accounts, you're going to end up not spending the money and you're going to look silly. So just be careful about your account level budget versus your campaign budget. Just because your campaign budget is appropriate, if you're limited at the account level, you better get that set in advance. And the same is true where, let's say, oh, I've got a pasta special going on this afternoon. I got a restaurant. Well, you could submit your ad, but it might not get approved right away. Now, normally Facebook is able to approve ads within 20 or 30 minutes. And if you're on some of our accounts, then you might get your ads approved immediately, which is called a progressive whitelist. Because Facebook sees that you have good behavior, and of course, they're going to approve you faster. Everything does go through a manual review, meaning a human has to look at it. And now they have offices that are all over the world. It used to be just in Palo Alto and Dublin, they had these call centers where these people would basically click on ads, approve and disapprove. And we would actually time our ad submissions to be late in the evening, United States time, because it would more likely be triggered through the Dublin Ad Review Center. And those people were friendlier. They're more likely to approve our ads. But now they have ad approval worldwide, so don't worry about it too much. If you can, though, the point on that is try to get your ads queued up in advance. So if you have a dark post, if you're scheduling a post for later, try to get that in advance so you don't get screwed by the ad approval cycle where the client says, hey, you know, how come our campaign's not live? And then you built the campaign just a few hours ago, and then you're waiting for Facebook. And you don't want to be in that situation where your sale is already over or you missed the opportunity because you waited too long to get the ad queued up. All right. So here, we are sending people, well, the 3 conversions. These are all about bidding to a conversion pixel. And we're saying of these 64,000 people, now they can go bigger than 10,000 because they have more money here. And this is already a proven model because we have these conversions. We've had 30 conversions at about $15 a conversion. And we spent, in the last 7 days, which is what they have as a default, $443. And so this tells me, yeah, this is pretty good, right? What's your acceptable CPA? Remember back we talked about in Module 1, what is your goal? Is it a conversion to a certain price? Is it leads at a certain price? Is it clicks at a certain price? If you're not quite sure what that is, because maybe you're an agency and clients are worth different amounts, then use your Google paid search as a benchmark for what traffic should cost and what the quality of that traffic is based on how many times they call and what the bounce rate is and all this kind of thing. So this is right on the verge of being too high for frequency. It's almost a frequency of 2, but who doesn't want to see pictures of, you know, these young Cub Scouts and, you know, the moms, right? We're targeting parents. They're married. They like the Cub Scouts. So of course they're going to like this, right? And so we're going to get a number of clicks and shares and other kinds of things. By the way, if you set up a dark post, it is true that if you target that post and then set all these different filters against it like you normally would, only those particular people will see this ad. However, once people start engaging with that dark post, it is subject to all of the restrictions that you have in the post itself. That's why, in general, you want to leave the language and country restrictions alone. But let's say that this is a dark post and it was only for a particular store where there's some kind of limitation by who you want to see it, then that limits organically who the dark post, or who can engage with that dark post.
Hey, Dennis,
Yeah.
I have a
Yes.
few questions of just a point you made a little bit ago. Some folks are wanting you just to reconfirm. Did you say to always choose optimized CPM and never CPC?
Yeah, don't do that. In short, the reason why is when you choose CPC, you're explicitly telling Facebook, hey, I just want as many clicks as possible.
Hmm.
And that doesn't mean that you're going to get, I mean, you'll get lower quality clicks. You'll get clicks all right, the lowest cost per click.
They
But
could
you
be
don't want to
completely
necessarily,
not your target. Mm-hmm.
yeah. And you don't want to confuse clicks with conversion. I'm always a big fan of quality over quantity. So just be careful about that.
Amen to that. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, folks, that asked that question. That's a really important point.
Here, I'll just show you where that is. So you see here, I'm in Power Editor now, creative, audience, and then optimization and pricing. Oh, this one's actually a CPC bid, but yeah, do as I say, not as I do. But here with Optimize CPM, you can choose what you want to go after. And if you use the default bid, based on the ad type that they have, they will automatically select the goal. So if you choose a page like story, Mari Smith is a fan, then it's going to try to get you more fans. If you are promoting your most recent post, then they're going to go for post engagement, which usually means photo views. If you are choosing a conversion based on a pixel that you have, then you're going to choose that as well. Now, if you've got your conversion pixel set up like Mari was showing you, every time you have one of these ads, you're going to click this. If it's in a conversion campaign, like the 3_ kind, which I don't think we have in this one here, then you're going to click this box, and then you're going to select the particular pixel. Now, you saw that Mari had created multiple conversion pixels. They could be different landing pages. They could also be different points along a funnel, of which the thank you or shopping cart success page is probably the last point in the funnel. If you're going after an e-commerce conversion, especially like it's an Infusionsoft and you've got multiple stages inside your sequence, you're going to want to put pixels on different points along the way so that you can measure where you're losing people. Or folks who have signed up for a free trial, or they've attended your webinar, or they've done whatever, all the way down to the thing at the bottom, which is your money event, whatever that might be. Usually, if you optimize, this is an advanced tip, so if this doesn't make sense to you, don't worry about it. If you have a complex funnel that includes a mid-funnel conversion and then a bottom-of-funnel money event, you're going to want to optimize to that mid-funnel conversion, not to the eventual checkout. It is true that what you care about is them paying at the end, but if you choose a mid-funnel checkout, you're going to, or mid-funnel, fill in the form, whatever that kind of lead is, you're going to give Facebook more data, and that helps them optimize faster than if the pixel only fires on the shopping cart success. If that makes sense. So of course you care about what happens at the bottom of the funnel, but for Facebook to optimize better, give them a mid-funnel conversion. Okay, hope I didn't lose anybody there. We talked briefly about this company that sells ATV equipment, and they have a winch on the back of the ATV that allows you to tow your friend out of the mud if you get stuck. And you can see these click-through rates, 8%, 6%, 5%. Look at this one, pushing it hard from behind. I was not the one who came up with this. It was actually Brian Eisenberg. I'll blame him. He's a landing page expert. And sure enough, he came up with this copy, and we just chose one of these images off of, I think it was either off their site or Google Images. If you're using images, by the way, and you're grabbing them from certain places, be careful that it's not licensed, because you could potentially get in trouble with copyright, like Getty Images or iStock Photo. They actually have these robots that go about and try to look for copy infringement. I don't think they're sophisticated enough to grab it out of a Facebook ad, but certainly if it's in a blog post or whatever, they're going to be able to pick it up. So just be careful about that. If it is a picture that's not yours, then you might ask the copyright owner, whoever took the picture, hey, I love your picture so much, do you mind if I feature it on my page? And they usually say yes.
That's such a great point, Dennis. If I'm just going to interject for a second, that a couple months back, I actually interviewed Richard Kelly, who's the past president of the American Society of Media Photographers, and we were asking him all about image copyright and interpretation of social media terms of use, etc. And that was the number one takeaway when it comes to using images, was simply to ask permission. To give attribution when possible, and specifically to ask permission. I saw, to your point, Dennis, I saw something go by not long ago that some eCards, someecards.com, they do some really hilarious stuff, that they had sent, not necessarily a cease and desist, but certainly they'd come after a fan page pretty strongly that was downloading their pages and then just posting them on Facebook as original content. And they were like, hey, knock it off. You're allowed to share our content on your wall, but you can't just post it as your own. So it's always a good thing to be careful of that.
Okay, so I know we're coming up to the top of the hour. Should we perhaps go through some of the slides we had and then go back to our little live
yeah,
workshop?
we had slides. Let's do it.
Yeah. We're having so much fun. That's the mark of a true expert, where you got people like Mari and myself. If you can actually build the campaigns and do it live, that's how you tell. There are a lot of people out there who are going to give you advice on Facebook ads, but they're not actually going to sit down and work with you on it. That's the real way to tell the expertise and the passion.
Yeah.
So the viral cycle, the growth part, this goes with our audience engagement conversion. The growth part is the content. By now you've got your content. You've started to figure out what is that passion, even if you're in a boring industry, like you're an attorney, or you are helping people lose weight, or there's always some kind of angle that you can find. And when you have that content and you start to test it very quickly, where you put out a few pieces of content, you find out what works, just like what I was showing you with the fishing shop, same thing. I saw there was someone who posted yesterday saying one of their clients is a stonemason. They sell rocks. How boring is that? But feature really cool pictures, interview people these ladies who are talking about how nice their home looks, and find the emotional angle. It's always there somewhere. And then you're going to amplify it. And the workplace targeting and the custom audiences and the retargeting, which we're going to get into in the next module. We're going to go more into custom audiences in the next module, is where you're going to start to tie all of these other channels together, because ultimately, even though there are some technical things that we're doing here, it's about word of mouth and paying so that the people who love you can be seen by other people who need to see this, which is also what a lookalike audience is. We'll talk about that in our next session. There are these different combinations of targeting and content and ad types that we're putting together. Just to put it in the context, we talked about audience engagement and conversion. You have to be balancing your efforts at different points in the funnel. If your page is not very big, or if the ratio of your PCAT to your fan base is low, you're going to have to focus on the blue here, building the audience, and then the green with the engagement. we know that the page life story, as opposed to the regular page ad where you say click like, become a fan, is more powerful because it incorporates the trust of who your friends are, and it automatically uses friend to fan targeting. The engagement on the most recent post is the workhorse of your campaign. If you don't have many fans, then this doesn't have many people, not a very big audience to trigger against. In which case, you move to a page post, again, the most recent post, targeted to the friends of fans who also like that particular audience. I'll make one comment here which will save a few people in this audience some grief in advance. If you have these ads that are always promoting the most recent post, but then someone, either you or someone else on your team, posts something like, hey everybody, we're very sorry, our website is down right now. And then this ad kicks in and starts promoting that, just be careful about that. So if you have some kind of bad message like, oh, our servers are down, or, hey, we're very sorry that, so-and-so complained, and don't post that organically. Post it as a dark post, because you don't want everyone to see that, because this thing will automatically pick up. And what you don't want to do is people will say, well, because sometimes we don't want to promote all the different posts, then let's not have this ad on that promotes the most recent post. There's enough posts. If you do it right, you should be promoting every single post, because not every post is there to try to sell something. No one wants to be sold to all the time. This is that 4-1-1 strategy we talked about before, where you're having 4 interesting, lighthearted pieces of content. You have one of them be something that, hey, buy my stuff, 20% off, that kind of thing. And ideally, you don't even say that. So this is where the bulk of the work is at engagement, and the bottom of the engagement funnel before conversion is email collection. So if you're using an Infusionsoft or a MailChimp or whatever, people exit out of this part of the funnel when they become part of a custom audience. And then from there, the conversion is a dark post, as well as specific messages to people that are in a custom audience, because they're bottom of the funnel. But if they're in a custom audience, you're still going to want to hit them at the top and the middle of the funnel. Some people like to call this tofu and this mofu. Always gets a chuckle out of people. The top of the funnel is about leveraging what other people are saying about you that carries so much more weight. Remember that if it's in the news feed, the page life story is going to show the background image. So be careful about what that background image has. If it has too many sale, 20% off, buy one, get one free, then it sort of hurts that people are less likely to click like page if this thing says all kinds of salesy sorts of things, right? The bulk of your ads are going to be targeted to friends and fans. If you have a small base, it's going to take you a little while to build that up. Friends and fans plus interest targeting is how you increase your audience and how you get great performance, great CTR, great conversion rate. As your audience gets bigger, and that's why the blue building audience is so important, this increases the number of people you can hit with friends and fans, which means another 330 people. When you have custom audiences, which we'll talk more about in the next module, you can start to create different combinations where, like Mari was showing you, a custom audience of people who have signed up for a webinar minus an exclusion audience is the people who have already bought. So you can use different combinations. In a particular ad, you could even load up 3 custom audiences that you're going to hit and then 2 negatives. So all different sorts of combinations. And of course, the custom audience can be based on these 4 types, although email is what you're probably going to use, which you export out of your constant contact. Probably every month or so, you'll export that out of your list. The engagement, the workhorse is a single ad that you create. It's targeted against fans and promotes the most recent post. You can use dark posts separately. You would stack these on top of these other campaigns that you have. And you could even create campaigns beyond the 1, 2, 3. And we'll cover that in the advanced section, where if you're starting to spend a lot of money, you're going to have another set of test campaigns. And once you have these ads that are working well, you're going to promote them to the production campaign that has a higher budget. But that's only for guys, let's say you're spending more than $500 a day, you're going to move to a test versus a production campaign setup. I don't think anybody here is doing that yet, but for those people who want to talk about it, and I would hope that as you are seeing success and seeing conversions and revenue and your clients are happy, then you're going to start to spend more money and you're going to do these more sophisticated things. You can serve page posts to combinations of these audiences, and not only can you do the affinity analysis like we talked about last time, but you can do affinity analysis against just a custom audience, even if you don't have a page. You can do analysis where you take this audience and then you cut it to say how many are in Australia, how many are female, how many like Mari Smith, how many, and it's kind of neat. You can do competitive analysis as well. So how many people are in my list and they like the competitor? We talked last time about literal, lateral, competitive, and workplace. You can apply all of those targets against this custom audience, and that's a great way to do research ahead of loading up an ad. Of course, my favorite thing is just go ahead and load up an ad and spend a couple dollars and sell. Either way, you can either do the research in advance, which takes a little bit more effort, or just go ahead and create an ad combination, being careful not to create too many ad combinations. We'll cover this next time, but just know that even if your email list is small, you can create audiences that are much bigger. You're always going to choose similarity instead of reach. The only time you choose reach is if you're selling sugar water or hamburgers or something like that. If you care about conversion and being precise, you're going to target by similarity, and then you're going to use these audiences in combination with the onion targeting we talked about before, based on what they like and where they live and partner targets and this kind of thing. Mari covered the dark posts, which is also called an unpublished page post or a ghost post. My favorite is the page post link ad. You may have seen Facebook made a change about a month ago where if you run a page post link ad and you include your picture, if someone clicks on the picture, then they come to your website based on that link that you specified, as opposed to they go to the photo gallery. What a waste, right? It used to be they click on the photo and then they're in the photo gallery. Then you had to put a lot of photos in there to try to, or you had to write a rich description against the photo to try to sell them, but then you couldn't cookie them, right? Because if they click on this link and then you have your retargeting set up through FBX, remember retargeting is you just put the JavaScript on that page on your website and then you can follow them around all over the internet. This is super, super key, right? They click on the link, they're automatically in your retargeting segments on Google and Facebook. We're going to cover that in the next one. I haven't seen many people talk about these dark posts. Dark posts are a great way to show messages to particular audiences without inundating your fans with 15 different posts per day. So if you've got different products, if you have different segments, you want to look at this, we've got a link on how do we set up dark posts. I think we actually did a session with John Loomer on how to do this. John's a friend. He loves to talk about ads. The other thing is that if you've done a good job in segmenting and understanding your audience, like we talked about in Module 2, then you already know who these different people are, and you're going to have dark posts that are going to line up with the audiences that you set up. Maybe your audiences, in this case, different personas or different, whatever you want to call them. Some people actually will give these names, like Sarah is a mom and she's 35 and she's trying to lose weight. She just had a baby and, whatever it is. But what do you want to say to Sarah? Well, here's a series of things I'd say to her. And then Jim is 50 and he's a retired stockbroker and he's blah, blah, blah. Who is he and what's he care about? What are his emotions? What are you going to say to him? So this dark post strategy has to tie to the personas and the different segments that you have. Do we have time to share a couple tricks? I thought I would share a couple secrets that are a little, I don't use secrets too lightly, but that are outside of what would typically be here. But I think based on what I've seen in the private group that I think other people would like here.
Yeah, Dennis, and just for the record, I know a couple people were just asking me about the length of these. We do schedule 1 hour, and they're just we're almost cramming a 1 or 2 year PhD in Facebook ads into 8 sessions. So if you need to drop off at the 1 hour mark, we completely understand. It is fully being recorded, and for those of you that have the stamina and the willingness, Dennis and I will stick around for just a little bit more to share some more content and do some Q&A, hopefully.
So let me share I think we have about 2 more minutes. I'm going to share a couple points which I think will help a lot of people who are feeling exhausted and overwhelmed. Because if you're doing a lot of micro-targeting and you're doing a lot of these technical things, it's not like this is the only thing that you're doing. You've got 50 other things that you're trying to do as a business owner. If you're doing targeting, you've got to then associate different audiences with that content. And it's hard to come up with content every day to post. Well, it's easy for you to say post content every day because that's what you guys do. Okay, well, here's the trick. Somebody in our group said that they're promoting duffelbags.com. So I have a service that's called Fancy Hands, but you can do the same thing on Fiverr, and there's other VA sorts of services. You pay these people, literally, I think I paid $2 for this. And I sent an email last night, and I said, what are 10 funny things people can do with duffel bags? And they came back and said, Danielle said, here's some things that they can do. Go to the luggage department and stuff them inside one another. And so you can have these people do the research for you. Take and even ask them to include links, and then you turn that into a post. So this is not them necessarily writing a post for you. There's a lot of SEO services where people will just create crappy content and post it on your blog because they're also good to make content. If you're an agency, that's certainly true. But you can ask these people to research certain things, like what are the top 10 ways that, or top 10 things that Masons do in their free time? I don't know, that kind of thing, right? And have them do the work. You could even, if you're really smart, get people out of the local university to work for you and teach a guest lecture. And of course, they're going to want to work on local businesses, get experience, put something on the resume. So it's something that you're going to want to think about on how you create content that's interesting, that engages your audience. You can even have your audience do this, where I was showing you with some of these car manufacturers, they actually ask fans to post pictures of themselves having fun on the weekend, driving your car through the mud and whatever, hot rods and whatever it is that they're working on. So this is our homework for Module 4, as we do with every module. All of this, it builds upon one another. Create one conversion pixel. If you're a real pro, create multiple conversion pixels, because now you're going to start to track when people are converting, and this is going to set us up for retargeting. If you're creating a conversion pixel for Facebook, you might as well create a conversion pixel for Google and set up perfect audience retargeting and the Google retargeting at the same time. So for every point of conversion, you're probably going to have 3 or 4 JavaScripts. Eventually, you're going to move to a tag management system so that all those JavaScripts can be driven by a single JavaScript. But we don't want to talk about that right now. For now, create in Power Editor this conversion pixel. And when you do that, when you create your conversion campaigns, which we'll talk about in our next module, then you'll be able to select that and choose Optimize CPM, and Facebook will do the work for you. Upload your custom audience. Ideally, you've got a list that's a few hundred or a few thousand. If it's not that big, it's tougher to do affinity analysis, and you're not going to get as much traffic, but that's okay. It's something to start with, and you'll gradually build it over time, and you'll even use your engagement campaign to grow your email list, and that's how email and Facebook work very well together. You can also use your custom audience if it's small to create lookalikes. So when you upload that custom audience, you click on that, it gives you the opportunity to create a lookalike, create a similar audience, give it a good name. And then create your conversion campaign, 3_conversion, go against your custom audience, go against your fans, and go against perhaps the lookalikes, and then see how does it convert based on this conversion pixel. If you're not quite ready to set this whole thing up, we'll go ahead and do it in our next session. And based on what ads are working, based on CTR and cost per click, start to pause the ads that aren't working and start to create new ads based on other combinations, based on onion targeting we talked about. Okay. And we have Module 5 coming up. I think, are we off next week?
Yes, we are. U.S. Thanksgiving.
All right. So everyone's got a chance to catch up.
They have a week to do some homework other than enjoying Thanksgiving.
And we'll be in the forums too. We'll be in the private group to answer any question that comes through. We've got a few other people that we added to give us some more horsepower.
Beautiful.
Okay, so I appreciate everyone being here as we go over. I'm happy to stay around and take a few questions, or it's up to you guys.
I do have some. I've been gathering some. I've been answering as many as I can. Oh God, your calendar looks as busy as mine. I've gathered up a few, so why don't we just get these, because these are great to have on the recording. So for the folks that are still here, this is awesome. Mariam asks, this is really good for folks saying, so your 3 different types of campaigns that you've been talking about through all sessions here so far, Dennis, are you saying to post to make 3 posts a day, or one for each category, or do you hit those 3 categories throughout the week?
So you're going to have, well, ideally, if you can post 2 or 3 times a day, great, provided the content's good. But organically, you should be posting, try to post once per day, and the campaign's audience engagement and conversion are naturally going to pick up at different points along the way. So don't worry. This doesn't mean you're creating content for each of these guys every day. That would just be crazy. When you think about email and an email autoresponder, you have content that's sort of pre-made. So you can treat Facebook just like as you would an email autoresponder sequence. So you've got dark posts that will continue to live, and as people become a fan or they join your email list or whatever it is, then all of a sudden they become eligible for these different buckets that you've set up. So it's not that you're creating more content every day. It's that as you flow people through this funnel, because of their behavior, they make themselves eligible to trigger other messages to show in their newsfeed, which is no different than email marketing.
Christy just brought up a good question. Is Thanksgiving week a good week to spend money on an ad? But you know what's interesting, and my team and I always talk about this because I was thinking about I do a newsletter, an email newsletter to my database every Friday. And, Thanksgiving's a big deal in the US, of course. Canadians have a different, Canadians already have their Thanksgiving, it was in early October. But, Europe, Asia, the UK, Australia, it's not Thanksgiving over there. Business as usual in the other half of the world. What do you
It's
think,
actually the
Dennis?
best time to fly. For anybody who's outside the United States or even in the United States, flying on Thanksgiving Day, by the way, is cheapest,
Yeah,
except for
yeah.
Christmas Day if you want to do travel. But in terms of running ads, you're right. Outside the United States, there's not a big impact. In the U.S., traffic is a little bit down, but the conversion rates are going to be higher because people are anticipating what the sales are. Your engagement rate and conversion, especially your engagement rate, is going to be higher because people are actually on the lookout for this kind of thing. If you are in a consumer segment, if you're in a B2B segment, once you hit Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
there's really not much selling going on until the beginning of the year. So it just depends. Do you have a consumer audience or do you have a business professional audience?
Well, it's true, but just to that point with the B2B, as we were just talking about the big budgets and how companies, departments, entire departments don't get their same budget the following year if they don't use it up. So depending on what people's business is, service and products, it could very well be that you can do extremely well with B2B. And I posted an article in the Facebook group about that, about the emotion part of that. It was awesome last night. So yeah, I'll be off on Thanksgiving Day, but I am actually, yeah, that's it there. You just scroll past it. It's awesome. Um, Black Friday. I always have a problem with this Black Friday because I don't like the name of it and it's just crazy. However, I think didn't it stem from like the amount of ink in the newspapers way back in the day before the internet? They called it Black Friday because you had
Yeah,
all these.
it's called Black Friday because that was when certain retailers made it into the black, when they became
Oh,
profitable.
that's what it's about. Okay, I thought it was something to do with the black and the ink. Maybe I read a different story. Got it, right, because everybody, they've had their Thanksgiving and now they call it Black. Well, Dennis, I haven't announced this anywhere else, but I just thought I would. I'm planning. Hopefully, I can pull this off. But my team and I are going to do a sale, and we're going to do an offer, and it will launch on Black Friday, and it's going to go all the way through to Tuesday. Now, most folks know that Monday is called Cyber Monday, the Monday after Thanksgiving, but I'm going to do my sale from Black Friday through Turquoise Tuesday.
Turquoise too. That's a Mari thing. I love it. That's great.
We're gonna have Turquoise Tuesday just because, for the heck of it. Um, Couple other questions. Can asked here, why is an ad with a potential reach of 24,000 people only seen by 492? Would raising the budget mean more people saw it? So I know that was specific to something you were showing.
Yeah. So if you have 26,000 people that you could potentially show it to, if you've done any other kind of narrowing of that audience, sometimes Facebook with their audience estimator is a little bit behind. So you'll see they rounded. They used to say 23,678, but now it's say 24,000. So that audience count is actually had a call with Facebook about it a few weeks ago. It's based on estimation and interpolation, meaning that they don't know the exact number, but they're kind of guessing based on the composition of your fan base. So that's one reason, but probably the main reason is that not everybody logs into Facebook every day. You can assume that you're going to reach 40 to 50% of these people over the course of a few days. So that 24 gets cut down to 12. And of the 12 that could potentially see it because they're on Facebook, only some of them will see it in their newsfeed. So you saw with the ad that we created with Andy that we had one audience that was 14,000 and we ended up reaching 4,600, which is just over, what is it, a third or whatever it might be, right? Or whatever the number, whatever the percentage is. But that will increase over time. If you are bidding CPC or CPM, then potentially you could be out of the auction, meaning you didn't bid high enough to reach certain segments of that audience. That's also why we recommend optimized CPM bidding.
Very good. Let's just do one more question, and then anybody else, if you did not get your question answered, actually, I think we've done really well. We've scooped up a lot of them, and many of them I was responding. I tend to respond to questions. If I don't think that absolutely everybody needs to know the answer to it, for example. I hope that makes sense in the most respectful way. But everybody's getting some good responses here. Dave is wanting to know, he's hearing you reference many times here, Dennis, if your audience is small, quote unquote. Could you give some ballpark benchmarks for audience size and then how that fits in with what you're talking about? What do you mean by, if your audience is small?
Well, audience is small relative to the expectations on sales, revenue, and traffic. So if you have the same question is true for email. If I have an email list of only 100 people, and let's say it's not some B2B major purchaser, like Boeing buying aircraft or that kind of thing, then how much sales can I really expect if my audience is that small, if I've got a consumer audience? So you have to set the right expectation relative to the size of the audience that you have in your email list, which is your custom audience, relative to how many people you can target where you have the social influence because of friend and fan, and they are also in your area. If you're a local business, you're that stone worker, or you sell stones to contractors that build fireplaces, then how many people really are there within a 50-mile driving radius of your store and are friends of fans and have some kind of context? Well, if that number is too small, and small is, let's say, less than 500, then you're going to have to relax some of those criteria, which means your performance won't be as good, but it's necessary as you're going to get around the chicken and the egg. If you're creating ads, I'd like to have ones that are maybe between 1,000 and 10,000 people, because anything less than that, and it's not really worth your effort. Because then you're spending a lot of time making ads that only a few people see. But if it's too big, then you're potentially wasting money and not giving yourself a chance to optimize. It should be relative to your budget. So whatever your budget is, let's say it's a test budget because you're not quite sure, or you're willing to test until you find it's profitable. Let's say your budget, is 20 bucks a day. Well, 20 bucks a day divided to a $5 CPM gives you 4,000 impressions a day. If you can show your message 4,000 times a day, then how big should your audience be? Well, about a tenth that per ad. So if I can show 4,000 per day, then I can have 10 ads that are showing about 400, right? Because if I have one ad that's targeting 100,000 people and I can only show 4,000 per day, then I'm just wasting it inside a segment that's too big. I need to filter that thing down to where I can have 10 ads at any point in time, and then I'm turning some ads off and adding new ads in, and therefore I have the right mix of the value of my time versus being efficient.
Okie dokie, Dennis. Let's press the pause button, my friend.
Fantastic. Hey, thanks everybody. Sorry for going late. We'll catch you guys in the private group.
No need to apologize for over delivering. You have a rapt audience here, and folks are very good about taking care of themselves if they need to jump off. And if you didn't get your question answered today, but I think we did really well with most folks. We'll see you in the Facebook group. For all my US friends, have a beautiful, beautiful Thanksgiving. Hope you have a wonderful plan with loved ones. And we will see you a week on Monday. Take care, folks, and enjoy and get practicing and catching up. Whatever help you need, let us know. We're here at your service. And thank you so much, Dennis. And you have an awesome Thanksgiving, my friend.
Thanks, Mari. Take care, everybody.
Bye now.